Good morning, friends. We are into unit number 4 of your syllabus. We are now going to discuss the implementation part of the strategy. We already had in first 3 units covered what is strategy, what is the framework that is needed for strategy, internal and external framework. Then we also discussed about why we need to formulate strategy, what all major aspects that we need to focus upon, and how do we design these vision, mission, goal, objectives, and have have the strategies which are at corporate level and the functional level. After having discussed what is strategy formulation, because we have to formulate it at various levels, now we have to think about how are we going to implement that strategy. And for implementation of strategy, it is an open-ended activity, my friends. It is an open-ended activity. Will keep on going and going. It's not going to finish. At some point of time, new strategy will be taken up. That will be formulated. That will be implemented. This is a continuous process, an open-ended activity, an open-ended part of strategic management. And then, who is going to implement it? Needless to say, it is people who are going to implement those strategies. I don't think material speaks. I don't think money speaks to you. Of course, if money's effect is there, but material effect is there, definitely there. You will see these are the things that are there. Machines don't speak, but machine also has an important role to play in the whole activity of business. But then what about implementation of strategy? Strategy is going to be implemented by people. So most important element of implementation of strategy is going to be people. And for that, we'll need to establish the priorities. Understand that. Unless you know what is the top priority, unless you know what is the most important thing to be done first, then what, then what, then what? It's a schematic method of implementing. It's a schematic method of doing things. Things are going to be done as per theme, as per scheme, as per phase. And that is very important, therefore, that you have to know the priorities. Then consider the resources available. Find out how many resources are there, how are they, which resources are useful, which resources are to be used for this particular activity, this particular purpose, this particular function. That could be IT, that could be human, that could be physical resources, that could be material, that could be finance. You have to determine scope of each. Find out how you are going to use those resources. Then it's not necessary that strategies are to be tackled at the same time. No, it will be phased out. And the phased approach is one of the most important element that has to be followed for strategic implementation. You have to seek technical support, seek technical and experts advice wherever necessary. Make use of that wherever necessary. You can say then the ensuring of successful implementation will take place. Expertise, of course, it could be available in-house, it could be available outside. You have to make use of that. Acknowledge small gains of those processes and share the achievements. Most important, you cannot all the time keep on shouting at people, do the work, all right. That is one of the things that you are going to motivate them to do. But at some point of time, you need to know whether they are doing some certain things and are those things being appreciated. And most important, they should use those marketing plans and tools to be able to support the assistance and financial aid wherever necessary. It is a kind of project that every activity will have to be treated as a project and then effectively implemented. Now, having said that, what are the things that we need to do while we are implementing strategy? We are going to learn those steps. Like I said, it's a stepwise thing that is to be followed. Like I said, the first 3 things were, I already discussed those: cost cutting, maximization of profit, and minimization of cost. That were the 2 important objectives, and the competitive advantage, and you can say the kind of support system that you are creating for getting these 3 things fulfilled. But we'll need leadership excellence for that. And leadership excellence should flow from top, should flow from the organizational leaders. Financial values are to be put for every single activity that are being carried out by the company. Then you also must formulate the right business model to be able to successfully implement what is there in the mind the time you started your business. Then you have to know how to manage these stakeholders, because stakeholders are going to be there and stakeholders will have interest in your organization. By the way, who are the stakeholders? Stakeholders are all those people. संस्कृत और मराठी और हिंदी में उसको कहते हैं हितैषी. Those are the people who are interested that this company should survive, company should do well. Who are all those people? Everybody who is interested in that business. It could be bank, it could be government, it could be society, it could be customer, it could be supplier, it could be people in the organization who work, we call them workmen or HR, human resource. It could be the businessman himself. It could be government who is wanting to provide support because they are getting taxes from the company. Every person who is going to be interested in company's survival and prosperity is called stakeholder, and you have to manage all these stakeholders. I'll give an example of state transport and its strike that has been called in Maharashtra. Many organizations, many companies are facing the lockout or you can even see when the strikes are going on. Needless to say, employee is important resource, employee is important stakeholder and need to take care of his or her needs, possibly. If that is not taken care, you have the disruptions that are likely to take place. Then culture evolution. Every organization must cultivate a proper culture. Some kind of set of rules, regulations could be there. There could be norms, there could be guidelines, there could be policies that will actually encourage people to follow certain things as a part of a culture. So culture and cultural evolution is also one of the important elements of implementation of strategy. Employee engagement. Now, every employee, every single resource who is working as human resource must have an interest in that organizational activities. The person should feel engaged. The person should feel that he is relevant or she is relevant. Person should be given adequate importance. Person should be given necessary tools, necessary policies, necessary guidelines for working properly within the framework of the company's premises, company's goals, company's activities. Empowerment is one of those things that are done along with employee engagement. Employee must feel that he is empowered to do certain things on behalf of the company. He must or she must create the sense of belonging for himself or herself. We then call those employees are appropriately engaged. Engagement is one of those important things that are to be followed to be able to successfully implement the strategies. And you have to all the time track the performance, monitor the performance. Performance monitoring, tracking the performance, knowing what is happening, getting the feedback, all those things make a lot of difference as far as the strategy implementation is concerned. We have already learned those steps involved in strategy formulation and steps involved in strategy implementation. Now in implementation, you are crafting the policy, you are embedding the rules, regulations, you are executing the things that are actually put on board for every single person to perform. And most important, you keep on sustaining that. That's what we mean by strategy implementation, the steps involved in strategy implementation. Now, another model that has emerged over the management scientists who have put in their efforts to know how the strategy implementation has to take place. One of the key one that we are going to discuss in this particular unit number 4, which we are talking about strategy implementation, have considerations that are put in by none other than McKinsey framework. We call it 7A's framework. We call it strategic fit framework. We must have human resource. We must have patience. For that, what all elements are there in 7S framework proposed by McKinsey. We are going to learn that. In fact, there is a model called GOOM model. GOOM model will mean how do we get there, what all things that we need to do actually, which are set as goals, targets, how to reach that target, what all those steps that we have to take, that we have to ask while implementing strategy, have a work action plans for each and every activity of the organization, and then form those gooms and try and achieve that. So first I am going to discuss in brief what this McKinsey framework suggests. There are hard and soft areas, soft systems that actually exist within an organization to be able to achieve the target that is put in and recommended by 7A's framework of McKinsey. First S is associated with, in fact, one of the most important element around which this strategy framework implementation is going to take place is shared vision. Everybody knows what the organization is standing for, what are the vision, what are the goals, what are the activities, what are the mission the company is wanting to undertake and implement. That is what information assimilation among all those who are the stakeholders, we call it shared vision. Then the structure, organization must have a structure. The structured organization actually is likely to achieve the goals that are set up. Then system, company must have systems working within itself. Every system, every element will be put together, which will be interdependent, interrelated, and interacting. Then there is a style that you need to follow. That style will follow the way the things are to be done. Staff, of course, one of the most important element without which any strategy is not going to be implemented. Skills, of course, those staff must possess those skills that are needed for appropriately achieving those goals that are set for itself. And the strategy, of course, is an important element of the implementation framework. We call it McKinsey's 7S framework. 7SM framework has got the last S, namely strategy. So strategy will be implemented with the help of 7S framework. Outcome of that will be strategic compliance, strategy and achieving the goals for which the strategy is fulfilled, and going back to structure again. This is a circular thing that will keep on and on and on. Now those points which I just mentioned are there, which include shared values, which include strategy, which include structure, which include system, which include style, which include staff. All those put together, we call that to be 7A's McKinsey's framework. Human resource has a rule. We have to smartly hire the people, train them properly, and manage them in the best and professional manner, the easiest manner. And then we are getting into that GOOMS thing. GOOM is nothing but a framework of goals, outcomes, objectives, and measures. Most important element in the strategic implementation is all the time continuously monitor the performance, find out whether the thing is measurable enough, whatever quantified goals are there are being followed and being achieved, continuously achieved or not, so on and so forth. And then we have these goal outcome objectives measures as GOOMs, as one of those things that actually get you to the actual implementation of your strategy. And that is where we use various kinds of templates, we use various kinds of forms, and see whether what is task that is allocated is actually achieved in the form of the Gantt task or that kind of chart that will be created to find out whether what was scheduled to be achieved is actually achieved on time or not. Thank you.